The purpose of architecture is to improve human life. Architects don't just create structures to look good, but also to be useful for the activity it was made for. There is a lot of math that goes into the making of each and every structure, from measurements to placement to weight bearing. We don't know why primitive people began building geometric structures. Archaeologists can only guess that prehistoric people looked to the heavens to imitate the circular forms of the sun and the moon, using that natural shape in their creations of earth mounds and monolithic hinges. Monolith means one stone, and megalith is a huge stone. Neolithic is a description of a prehistoric time in world history when primitive people worked in stone, also known as a new Stone Age. The Stonehenge comes from the prehistoric era and is estimated to have been made in 3100 BC. The monument is made of bluestone, sarsen, and Welsh sandstone. Speculation as to why the monument was made range from human sacrifice to astronomy. Silbury Hill is the largest man-made mound in Europe. It compares in height and volume to the roughly contemporary Egyptian pyramids. Probably completed in around 2400 BC, it apparently contains no burial. Though clearly important in itself, its purpose and significance remain unknown. Wood was not widely available in the arid Egyptian landscape. Houses in ancient Egypt were made with blocks of sun-baked mud. Flooding of the Nile River and the ravages of time destroyed most of these ancient homes. Much of what we know about ancient Egypt is based on great temples and tombs, which were made with granite and limestone and decorated with hieroglyphics, carvings, and brightly colored frescoes. The ancient Egyptians didn't use mortar, so the stones were carefully cut to fit together. The Step Pyramid of Djoser was the very first of any of the pyramids built in Egypt. It is 254 feet tall with 7 steps. Djoser's tomb is found 95 feet below the present-day surface. Also, inside the tomb are several vividly painted walls inlaid with blue tiles. The Luxor Temple has been in almost continuous use as a place of worship up to the present day by both Christians and Muslims. The original entrance to the temple was in the northern court where 7 52-foot columns were built. The court then leads to a hypostyle hall where there are 32 more columns. From the rise of ancient Greece until the fall of the Roman Empire, great buildings were constructed according to precise rules. The Roman architect Marcus Vitruvius, who lived during 1st century BC, believed that builders should use mathematical principles when constructing temples. For without symmetry and proportion, no temple can have a regular plan, Vitruvius wrote in his famous 10 books on architecture. The 3 classical periods of architecture were Greek, Hellenistic, and Roman. Acropolis means high city in Greek. The Acropolis in Athens was built on top of what is known as the Sacred Rock, and it was supposed to radiate power and protection for its citizens. It is home to many important archaeological sites, the most famous being the Parthenon, a temple dedicated to the Greek goddess Athena. The Colosseum was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world in 2007, and for good reason. This amphitheater can hold at least 50,000 spectators and has over 80 entrances. It was built in only 9 years with the use of over 60,000 Jewish slaves, and built well because the ancient Romans would sometimes flood the Colosseum and have miniature ship naval battles inside as a form of entertainment. Much of what we call Byzantine architecture today is ecclesiastical or church-related. The rapid spread of the young religion of Christianity created a need for the new approaches to building design. Building techniques included square-shaped, centrally planned churches designed after the Greek cross, central domes of great height, rising from half-dome pillars, mosaic decorations, and clerestories, or a high wall with a band of narrow windows along the very top to illuminate large interiors. The Hagia Sophia was once a Christian church that was eventually converted into a mosque. Many frescoes were plastered over when this change occurred, however mosaics made of stone, glass, terracotta, and precious metals can still be seen today. Romanesque design and construction evolved from early Roman and Byzantine architecture. Characteristics of this period of art included rounded arches, barrel and groin vaults, massive doors, small windows, and floor plans designed around the Latin cross. Also known as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, This freestanding bell tower for the cathedral in Pisa, Italy is 191.5 feet tall. It is a cylindrical stone body surrounded by open galleries with arcades and pillars resting on a bottom shaft and a belfry or bell tower on top. Early in the 12th century, new ways of building meant that cathedrals and other large buildings could soar. Gothic architecture began mainly in France, where builders began to adapt the earlier Romanesque style. Builders were also influenced by the pointed arches and elaborate stonework of the Moorish architecture in Spain. Originally, Gothic architecture was known as the French style. During the Renaissance, after the French style had fallen out of fashion, artisans mocked it. They coined the word Gothic to suggest that French-style buildings were the crude work of German barbarians. Although the label wasn't accurate, the name Gothic remained. Originally, Chartres Cathedral was a Romanesque-style church which was destroyed by fire. The new Chartres Cathedral was rebuilt on the foundation of the original church. It was Gothic in style, and the massive weight of its high clear-story windows meant that flying buttresses or external supports had to be used in new ways. Each curved pier connects with an arch to a wall and extends or flies to the ground or a pier some distance away. Thus, the supporting power of the buttress was greatly increased. The return to classical ideas ushered an age of awakening in Italy and Northern Europe, known as the Renaissance, which means born anew in French. During this period, architects were influenced by highly symmetrical and carefully proportioned buildings. St. Peter's Basilica is a popular tourist destination. The church is built on the site where St. Peter, one of the 12 apostles of Jesus, was buried. The picture shows an obelisk from 13th century Egypt that once stood in Nero's circus in Rome. This church follows the Greek cross plan established from earlier years, and the colonnade in the square outside contains 140 statues of various saints. It is the largest church in the world in terms of area, with a capacity for 60,000 people. The rotunda is symmetrical with a temple porch in front and a domed interior. The name rotunda refers to the villa's circle within a square design. The architect Palladio was the designer for the villa, and he was interested in engaging viewers, which is why instead of displaying just one facade, the building displays 4 striking facades. Palladio emphasized balance, visual clarity, and uniformity to make this structure sophisticated and serene. The word Baroque means imperfect pearl, from the Portuguese word barroco. The Baroque pearl became a favorite centerpiece for the ornate necklaces and ostentatious brooches popular in the 1600s. The trend toward flowery elaboration transcended jewelry into other art forms, including painting, music, and architecture. Centuries later, when critics put a name to this extravagant time, the word Baroque was used mockingly. Baroque architecture was always highly decorated and often included enormous domes, swirling forms, huge spiraled columns, multicolored marble, and lavish murals. However, in some areas of the world, such as France, the Baroque style was more restrained by keeping elements symmetrical and orderly while still being lavishly detailed. The Trevi Fountain's central figure is of Neptune, god of the sea, riding a chariot in the shape of a shell pulled by 2 seahorses, each guided by a Triton. One seahorse is obedient and the other restive, representing the 2 moods of the sea, which itself is characterized by the semicircular basin. The fountain is attached to the Aqua Virgo, an aqueduct that brings water from the Siloam Springs. Tradition has it that you will return to Rome if you throw a coin into the fountain's water basin. Rococo architects applied Baroque ideas with a lighter, more graceful touch. Rococo combined Italian Barocco or Baroque details with French rocaille, or shell-shaped ornaments. Rococo style is very similar to Baroque style. However, Rococo buildings tend to be softer and more graceful, using paler colors and softly curving shapes more dominantly. The pilgrimage church of the Scourged Savior is also known as the Weerskirke, which means church in the meadow. The outside of this church is very plain, however the inside ornamentation is a wonderful masterpiece of Rococo design. Lively colors bring out the sculpted detail, and fluid lines offer observers fresh surprises. A very interesting aspect of the interior are the ceilings painted as trompe l'oeil, appearing to open on an iridescent sky which angels fly across. The Smolny Cathedral is the centerpiece to a convent that the daughter of Peter the Great, Elizabeth, was originally supposed to occupy when she was going to become a nun. Instead, she decided to accept the offer for the Russian throne. Rastrelli made this building and also many other important landmarks in Russia, including the Winter Palace. Today, the cathedral is mainly used as a concert hall. Ornate Baroque and Rococo styles fell out of favor as architects returned to classical ideals borrowed from ancient Greece and Rome. Architects were now turning away from the elaborate designs of the previous eras in favor of restrained neoclassical or new classical approaches. Orderly, symmetrical neoclassical architecture reflected the intellectual awakening among the middle and upper classes in Europe during the period historians often call the Enlightenment. The U.S. Capitol combines function with aesthetics. Today it covers well over 1.5 million square feet, has over 600 rooms, and miles of corridors. As the focal point of the government's legislative branch, the U.S. Capitol building is the centerpiece of the Capitol campus. In addition to its active use by the Congress, the building is a museum of American art and history. During the late 1800s, many European artists, graphic designers, and architects rebelled against formal, classical approaches to design. They believed that the greatest beauty could be found in nature. Art Nouveau is a style of decoration and architectural detail that features flowing floral motifs. Perhaps the most important artist to have displayed this style of architecture is Frank Lloyd Wright. Falling Water is a home designed by Frank Lloyd Wright for the Kaufman family. The home is so famous because it doesn't even appear to stand on solid ground, but instead stretches over a 30-foot waterfall. Only 2 colors of paint were used in the cabin to maintain unity with the surrounding forest. Wright also designed Taliesin, which is located in a desert. Wright had a long fascination with Asian art and was an avid collector of prints, screens, hanging scrolls, textiles, ceramics, sculptures, and rugs. He frequently used items from his collection to decorate Taliesin. In French, the term beaux arts means fine arts or beautiful arts. Beaux arts is a latent, eclectic form of neoclassicism that combines classical architecture from Greece and Rome with Renaissance ideas. This style is characterized by order, symmetry, formal design, grandiosity, and elaborate ornamentation. This building has a marble Beaux Arts exterior with Art Nouveau elements and an interior containing Art Deco elements. The building's main use is as a theater, but houses the Palace Museum as well as the National Museum of Architecture. Perhaps the most spectacular aspect of this building is on the interior, where the stage boasts a Tiffany stained glass curtain portraying a panoramic view of the Valley of Mexico with its 2 volcanoes. Grand Central Station is a terminal that serves as the end of the line for trains. The south entrance to this building is adorned by symbolic statuary that surrounds the terminal's iconic clock. Mercury, the Roman god of travel and business, is set 50 feet high and flanked by the wisdom of Minerva and the strength of Hercules. The clock is 14 feet in diameter and was made by Tiffany Company. Gothic Revival was a Victorian style inspired by Gothic cathedrals and other medieval architecture. In the early 20th century, Gothic Revival ideals were applied to modern skyscrapers. This includes many gargoyles and pinnacles on these neo-Gothic buildings. The architects of this building were Raymond Hood and John Howells, who were chosen over many other architects. Their neo-Gothic design may have appealed to the judges because it reflected a conservative, and some critics say even regressive, approach. The facade of the tower is studded with rocks collected from great buildings around the world. With their sleek forms and zigzag designs, Art Deco buildings embrace the machine age. Art Deco style streamlines styling of modern technology combined with patterns and icons taken from the Far East, classical Greece and Rome, Africa, ancient Egypt, India, and Mayan and Aztec cultures. This structure was built in 1930 and for a few months was the tallest skyscraper in the world. It was also one of the first buildings composed of stainless steel over a large exposed surface. The architect, William Van Allen, drew inspiration from machine technology for the ornamental details on the Chrysler Building. Eaglehood ornaments, hubcaps, and abstract images of cars can be found on the building. Modernism was not just another style. It presented a new way of thinking. Modernist style emphasized structure and focused on providing specific needs rather than imitating nature. Architects of this time believed in applying scientific, analytical methods to design. Buildings ran counter to expectations and often seemed to defy gravity. The glass house has been called one of the world's most beautiful and yet least functional homes. The architect, Philip Johnson, did not envision it as a place to live so much as a stage and a statement. The house is often cited as a model example of the international style, which is a style typically used in office buildings and upscale homes for the rich.